I bought a duplex 3 months ago without telling my parents. Last week, I overheard my mother on the phone saying the duplex is all ready for Derek and the kids, that I would be so happy to help family. My older brother Derek, his wife, and their 2 children were supposed to move into my investment property rent-free. Nobody asked me. Nobody told me. They just decided. I said nothing. I listed both units immediately. Yesterday, my parents drove by and saw strangers carrying boxes into both sides. My phone started ringing 30 seconds later. The calls came in waves. First my mother, then my father, then Derek, then my mother again. 12 missed calls in 15 minutes. I was at work, sitting in my office at the manufacturing plant, where I manage operations, watching my phone light up like a Christmas tree. I knew exactly what was happening. They had seen the renters. I let it ring. Every buzz felt like a small victory. When I finally got home that evening, my mother was sitting in her car outside my apartment building. She had been waiting for 2 hours. The moment I pulled into my parking spot, she jumped out and rushed toward me. Her face was red and blotchy from crying. I have never been good at confrontation. My whole life, I avoided conflict with my family. I was the peacekeeper, the understanding one, the son who never caused problems. But something had shifted in me over the past 3 months. Something had hardened. My mother grabbed my arm as I tried to walk past her. "Xavier, what have you done? What have you done to your brother?" I pulled my arm free, gently, but firmly. "I rented my property to paying tenants. That's what people do with investment properties. But Derek needs that place. His landlord already gave him 30 days' notice. Where is he supposed to go with 2 children? How could you do this?" We stood in the parking lot as the autumn wind picked up around us. Leaves scattered across the asphalt. My mother looked older than I remembered. The lines around her eyes were deeper, her hair grayer, but her expression was the same one I had seen my entire childhood whenever I disappointed her. "Nobody asked me," I said quietly. "Nobody called to discuss this. You just decided my property belonged to Derek. Family helps family, Xavier. After everything we have done for you, this is how you repay us? Your brother is struggling. He needs support. He needs his family." I took a deep breath. This was the moment I had been preparing for. Derek has borrowed over $15,000 from you and Dad in the past 5 years. He has never paid back a single dollar. He has never held a steady job for more than 8 months. Every apartment he has ever rented, he has been evicted from for not paying rent. And you want me to let him live in my property for free? My mother's face went from hurt to angry in an instant. How dare you throw your brother's struggles in his face? He has had bad luck. He has had hard times. That is what family is for. To help during hard times. I worked 2 jobs for 4 years to save for that down payment, I said, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. I saved every penny. While Derek spent money on new trucks and vacations and big-screen televisions. I ate ramen for dinner 6 nights a week, while he posted photos of steakhouse meals on social media. I sacrificed and saved and planned. And now you expect me to just hand it over? We are not asking you to hand it over. We are asking you to help your brother. He can live in one side. You can rent out the other. It is a duplex. There is room for everyone, except I already signed lease agreements with 2 tenants. Legal, binding contracts. They moved in today. They have rights. My mother stepped closer, her voice dropping to a threatening whisper. Then break the leases. Tell them there was a mistake. Give them their deposits back. Fix this, Xavier. Fix this right now. No. The word hung in the air between us. I had never said no to my mother before. Not like this. Not with such finality. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. You are going to regret this. Your father and I will not stand by while you abandon your family. This is not over." She turned and walked back to her car. She drove away without looking back. I stood in the parking lot for 10 minutes after she left, my hands shaking, my heart pounding. I felt sick and triumphant at the same time. That evening, I was making dinner when my phone rang. It was Sarah Palmer, my tenant in Unit A. She was a nurse at County General Hospital, a quiet woman in her late 20s who had moved in that morning with just a few boxes and a worn sofa. "Mr. Thompson, I am so sorry to bother you, but there is a man here claiming to be your brother. He is trying to get inside my unit. He says I need to leave, that the lease is not valid, that he has every right to be here." My stomach dropped. "I will be right there. Do not let him inside. Call the police. If he tries to force his way in, he already tried the door. I locked it. I am calling the police now." I grabbed my keys and ran. The duplex was 20 minutes across town in a quiet neighborhood with old trees and sidewalks. I bought it because the area was stable, the schools were good, and the property had been well maintained. When I pulled up, there were 2 police cars in the driveway, their lights flashing red and blue across the front of the building. Derek was standing on the small front lawn, arguing with 2 officers. His wife Brittany sat in their truck with the windows up, the 2 kids in the back seat. Sarah stood on the porch of Unit A, wrapped in a cardigan, looking frightened. I got out of my car and walked toward the scene. Derek saw me, and his face contorted with rage. "There he is. There is the landlord. Tell them. Xavier. Tell them. I am your brother, and I have every right to be here." One of the officers, a tall woman with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, turned to me. "Are you the property owner?" "Yes, ma'am. Xavier Thompson. I own both units." "And is this man your brother?" "Yes, ma'am. But he has no right to be here. Miss Palmer is my legal tenant. She signed a lease this morning and moved in today. My brother has never lived here and has no claim to this property." Derek stepped forward, and the other officer, a younger man with a thick mustache, held up a hand to stop him. "Sir, step back. He is lying. My parents told me this place was for me and my family. He is trying to steal from family. He is trying to keep my kids homeless." The female officer looked at me. "Do you have documentation of the lease agreement?" I pulled up the PDF on my phone and showed her. She examined it carefully, then nodded. "This lease is valid and legal." "Sir," she turned to Derek, "you need to leave this property immediately. You have no legal right to be here. The tenant has the right to call for your removal. This is family business. You cannot arrest me for trying to talk to my own brother. You attempted to force entry into a private residence. The tenant says you tried the door handle multiple times and refused to leave when asked. That is trespassing. I am going to give you one warning. Leave now and do not come back. If you return, you will be arrested." Derek looked at me with pure hatred. "You are dead to this family, Xavier. You hear me? Dead. You chose money over your own blood. I hope you can live with that." He got in his truck. Brittany would not look at me. The kids pressed their faces against the window, confused and scared. They drove away, Derek shouting something I could not hear through the closed windows. The officers took a report. Sarah gave her statement. I apologized to her repeatedly. She was kind about it, but I could see the worry in her eyes. This was not what she signed up for. After the police left, I stood in the driveway of my duplex, the property I had worked so hard to buy, and felt the weight of what I had just done. I had chosen my own future over family obligation. I had said no. And now, I had no idea what would come next. For 3 days, everything was quiet. I started to believe the worst was over. The police warning must have scared Derek away. My parents had not called. Maybe they were ashamed. Maybe they realized they had pushed too far. I should have known better. On Thursday evening, Harold Bennett called me. Harold was my tenant in Unit B, a retired high school history teacher in his mid-60s who had been living in my property for 6 weeks before Derek showed up. He was a calm, methodical man who paid rent early and kept his unit immaculate. Xavier, I hate to trouble you, but someone vandalized my car last night. I just discovered it this morning. I was hoping you might check your security cameras. I had installed security cameras 2 weeks ago, mounting them at both entrances and the parking area. At the time, it seemed like a smart landlord decision. Now I realized I had been preparing for something without knowing it. I will check right now and call you back, I said. I pulled up the security footage on my laptop. I scrolled back to the previous night, watching at double speed. At 1:47 in the morning, a figure appeared in the parking area. The motion-activated camera switched to normal speed, and I watched as Brittany, my sister-in-law, walked up to Harold's sedan with something in her hand. I watched her key both sides of the car, long, deep scratches running from the front bumper to the back. Then she carved words into the driver's side door. The camera angle was clear enough that I could read what she wrote. Family thief. She looked directly at the camera for 3 seconds, as if she wanted to be seen, then walked away into the darkness. I felt cold. This was not impulsive anger. This was calculated revenge. I called Harold back and told him I had footage. I am so sorry. This is my brother's wife. I will file a police report immediately. And make sure your car is fully repaired at my expense. Harold was silent for a moment. Your brother's wife? Xavier, I like you. You have been a good landlord. But I cannot live somewhere where my property gets destroyed because of family drama. I need you to handle this. I will. I promise. I am going to the police station right now. I downloaded the footage onto a flash drive and drove to the station. The same female officer from 3 days ago, Officer Martinez, took my report. She watched the footage twice. That is clear evidence of criminal mischief. The damage to the vehicle appears to exceed $500, which makes it a misdemeanor. I will forward this to the district attorney, and we will issue a warrant for her arrest. Thank you. My tenant is understandably upset. Your family is causing you quite a bit of trouble, she said, not unkindly. Yes, ma'am. 2 days later, Brittany was arrested at her home. Derek posted bail within 3 hours. That same afternoon, my father called me for the first time since the confrontation with my mother. Xavier, you have gone too far. You are going to put Brittany in jail, the mother of your niece and nephew, for scratching a car? Are you out of your mind? She committed a crime, Dad. She damaged my tenant's property on my property. She did it deliberately. There are consequences for actions. She was upset. You humiliated Derek in front of the police. You turned your back on family. What did you expect? I expected people to respect my property and my choices. I never agreed to let Derek live in my duplex. Nobody asked me. We should not have to ask. You are family. When family needs help, you help. You do not call the police. You do not press charges. You do not turn your back. His voice was getting louder with each sentence. I could picture him in his kitchen, pacing back and forth the way he always did when he was angry. Dad, I am not going to let people vandalize property because they are related to me. That is not how the world works. You have no idea how the world works, boy. You think your fancy duplex makes you better than us? You think your rental income makes you successful? You are nothing without family. Nothing. And we are going to make this right ourselves, since you refuse to do the right thing. He hung up before I could respond. I sat in my apartment, staring at my phone, trying to understand what he meant by making things right themselves. The words felt like a threat. 4 days later, I found out exactly what he meant. A courier delivered a certified letter to my workplace. My boss brought it to my office with a concerned expression. Everything okay, Xavier? This looks official. I opened the envelope and read the letter twice. certain I was misunderstanding. It was from an attorney named Preston Hayes, representing my parents. The letter stated that my parents had provided a family loan of $25,000 toward my duplex down payment. The letter demanded immediate repayment of the full amount plus interest, totaling $28,000. If I did not pay within 30 days, they would file a lien against my property and pursue legal action for debt collection. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. My parents had never given me a single dollar toward the duplex, not one penny. I had saved every cent myself, working as an operations manager during the day and doing freelance consulting at night. I had tracked every dollar in a spreadsheet. My down payment came entirely from my own savings account. This was completely fabricated. I called my mother immediately. She answered on the first ring, as if she had been waiting. "Did you get the letter?" she asked. Her voice was cold, businesslike. "You know this is a lie. You never gave me any money for the duplex. We have bank records showing we gave you money over the years for various things. Christmas gifts, birthday money, help with your car repair 3 years ago. That money was a loan, Xavier. Not gifts. Loans. And we want it back. You are trying to steal my property. We are trying to get what we are owed. You have a choice. Let Derek move into the duplex rent-free, and we will forgive the debt. Or we take legal action. You have 30 days. She hung up. I sat at my desk, the letter in my hands, and realized my parents were willing to commit fraud to force my cooperation. They were willing to destroy my financial future to get what they wanted. The family I had known my entire life was gone. In its place were strangers who saw me as an obstacle instead of a son. I hired an attorney the next morning. Her name was Caroline Foster, a real estate lawyer in her early 40s with a reputation for being thorough and aggressive. She came recommended by a coworker whose sister had used her during a property dispute. Caroline's office was downtown in an old building with wood floors and tall windows. She listened to my entire story without interrupting, taking notes in neat handwriting on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and folded her hands. "Your parents are attempting extortion. Fabricating a debt to force you to provide free housing is illegal. However, even fraudulent claims can tie up property in court for months and damage your credit score. They know this. They are counting on you being too afraid of the process to fight back." "I have documentation," I said. "Bank statements showing I saved the money myself. My mortgage application showing I qualified independently. Tax returns. Everything." "Good, that will help. But understand that your parents can still file a lawsuit. It will be frivolous, but it will be real, and you will have to spend money defending yourself." "How much money?" "Several $1,000s. Minimum. Possibly more if they drag it out." I closed my eyes. I had already spent $800 on repairs for Harold's car. Now I was looking at thousands more in legal fees. "Send them a cease and desist letter," I said. "Tell them I will countersue for fraud and extortion if they do not drop this immediately." Caroline nodded. "I will draft it today." The letter went out that afternoon via certified mail. I thought it might scare them into backing down. I was wrong. 1 week later, my parents filed an actual lawsuit in county court. The complaint listed 18 separate loans dating back 10 years, including birthday money, Christmas checks, help with college textbooks, money for a car repair, even $20 my father gave me for gas when I visited them 4 years ago. It was insane. It was absurd. But it was real. Caroline filed a response, denying all claims, and including my financial documentation. She also filed a motion to dismiss, based on lack of evidence. But the court process would take months. While dealing with the lawsuit stress, barely sleeping, spending every evening reviewing documents with Caroline, something worse happened. Sarah, my tenant in Unit A, called me on a Tuesday evening. "Mr. Thompson, I need to tell you something. Your brother approached me at the hospital today. My blood went cold. At your workplace? Yes. I was coming off my shift, and he was waiting in the parking garage. He knew my name. He knew what unit I live in. He offered me $2,000 in cash to break my lease early and move out. He said, "You are an unstable landlord who will make my life miserable, and it would be better for me to leave now before things get worse." Sarah, I am so sorry. That is completely inappropriate. Did you feel threatened? I felt uncomfortable. He was not aggressive, but he knew where I worked. That scared me. How did he find me? I had no idea. The lease application included Sarah's employer information for verification purposes, but that was supposed to be confidential. Derek must have gotten access to my files somehow. 2 days later, Harold called with a similar story. Derek had shown up at the public library, where Harold worked part-time shelving books 3 mornings a week. Same offer. $2,000 cash to break the lease and leave. Same warnings about me being an unstable landlord. Harold was less scared than Sarah, but equally concerned. Xavier, I told him no. I like living here and you have been nothing but professional. But this is getting out of hand. Your brother is actively trying to sabotage your business. He was right. Derek was attacking from every angle, trying to force the units vacant so he could move in. I had to act fast before I lost both tenants. I called Sarah and Harold separately and offered them both the same deal. 3 months of reduced rent, $200 off per month, if they agreed to stay for at least another 6 months. I explained the situation honestly. My family was trying to force me to give them free housing, and I was fighting back legally. But I needed stable tenants to maintain my investment. Both agreed. Sarah, because she appreciated the honesty, and the rent reduction would help her pay off student loans. Harold, because he believed in standing up to bullies, and he saw Derek as exactly that. But the reduced rent meant I was losing $400 a month in income. $400 I needed to pay Caroline's legal bills. The financial pressure was crushing, and Derek was not done. The stress started affecting everything. I was not sleeping more than 4 hours a night. I would wake up at 2 in the morning, my mind racing through worst-case scenarios. What if I lost the lawsuit? What if my parents actually got a lien on my property? What if both tenants left and I could not find new ones? What if Derek vandalized the property again? My boss noticed. I had been a reliable employee for 7 years, never missed a deadline, never caused problems. But now I was distracted, showing up late, forgetting meetings. The constant phone calls from Caroline, from my parents' attorney, from my family members trying to convince me to give in, were bleeding into my work life. One afternoon in late October, my boss called me into his office. His name was Raymond Clark, a methodical man who had worked his way up from the factory floor to senior management. He believed in loyalty and consistency. "Xavier, close the door and sit down." I knew this was not going to be good. "We have had some unusual phone calls over the past few weeks," Raymond said, leaning forward with his elbows on his desk. "Someone claiming to be your brother has called 4 times claiming there is a family emergency. Each time, he insists he needs to speak with you immediately. My assistant has explained that we do not transfer personal calls unless it is a verified emergency, but he keeps calling back. Yesterday he called, claiming your mother was in the hospital. We almost pulled you out of a meeting before I decided to verify with the hospital directly. There was no patient by that name. My face burned with humiliation. I am so sorry. My brother is not telling the truth. There is a family dispute over a property I own, and he is trying to disrupt my life in any way possible." Raymond nodded slowly. "I figured it was something like that. Look, Xavier, I understand family problems. We all have them. But I need you to keep your personal issues away from this workplace. The phone calls are disruptive, and honestly, your performance has been slipping. I need to know you can handle this." "I can. I will. I am dealing with it legally. It should be resolved soon. Make sure it is. I value you as an employee, but I cannot have this kind of chaos affecting our operations. I left his office feeling smaller than I had ever felt. Derek was not just attacking my property and my finances. He was attacking my career, my reputation, my stability. That evening, I sat in my apartment and seriously considered giving up. Maybe I should just let Derek have the duplex. Maybe I should sell it, take whatever equity I had left after legal fees, and walk away. Maybe fighting was not worth destroying everything else in my life. But then I thought about the 4 years of ramen dinners, the weekends spent working instead of relaxing, the sacrifices I made while Derek posted photos of new purchases on social media. The principle of the thing. I could not let them win. If I gave in now, I would never forgive myself. My phone rang. It was Sarah, and the panic in her voice made my heart sink before she even spoke. "Mr. Thompson, you need to come to the duplex right now. Your sister-in-law is inside my unit. She will not leave." I came home from my shift and found her in my living room with her kids. She says she has partial ownership of the building. The police are here, but they say this might be a civil dispute. I do not know what to do. I was in my car before she finished the sentence. When I arrived, there were 2 police cars in the driveway again. Sarah stood on the lawn with a female officer. Brittany sat on Sarah's couch inside Unit A, visible through the front window, with her 2 children playing on the floor. She looked calm, almost smug. I ran up to Sarah. "What happened?" "I came home an hour ago and found the window by the back door pried open." She was already inside. She said there has been a misunderstanding, that your brother is your business partner and they have partial ownership of the duplex. She refused to leave. I called the police immediately. The officer, a tired-looking man in his 30s, turned to me. "Are you the property owner?" "Yes." "Xavier Thompson. This woman is my sister-in-law. She has no ownership, no claim, no right to be here. She broke in through a window. That is breaking and entering. She showed us documents," the officer said. "Partnership papers, property records. They look official, filed with the county. If there is a legitimate ownership dispute, this becomes a civil matter. The tenant would need to go to court to resolve it. Those documents are fake, forged. My brother has no ownership stake in this property. Can you prove that right now?" I pulled up my mortgage documents on my phone, showing my name as the sole owner. I showed the original deed. But the officer shook his head. "Sir, she has documents too. They look real. I cannot determine on the spot which documents are legitimate. You need to sort this out in court." Sarah turned to me, her eyes wide. "Mr. Thompson, I cannot live like this. I work 12-hour shifts at the hospital. I cannot come home wondering if someone will be in my apartment. I am sorry, but I am giving you 30 days' notice. I am moving out." My stomach dropped. "Sarah, please. I will fix this. I will get a restraining order. I will prove those documents are fake. I believe you. But I cannot do this. I am sorry." She went inside to pack some essentials to stay with a friend. The police eventually convinced Brittany to leave, but only after she sat on that couch for another 40 minutes, making a show of how comfortable she was in her property. I stood in the driveway after everyone left, staring at the duplex I had fought so hard to keep, and realized I was losing. My tenants were leaving. My income was disappearing. My family was destroying me piece by piece, and I had no idea how to stop them. Sarah moved out 3 weeks later. She was kind about it, apologizing repeatedly, explaining that she could not handle the stress. I did not blame her. I gave her a positive reference and wished her well. The unit sat empty for the first time since I bought the property. No rental income from Unit A. Just an empty space and monthly mortgage payments I was struggling to cover. Caroline worked on investigating the forged ownership documents Brittany had shown the police. What she discovered made everything worse. Xavier, your brother filed fake partnership paperwork with the county clerk's office 6 weeks ago, Caroline explained over the phone. He created documents claiming he invested $12,000 in your duplex purchase and was entitled to partial ownership. The documents are sophisticated. They have fake notary stamps, forged signatures, the whole thing. The county clerk filed them because they looked legitimate. How is that possible? Clerks process hundreds of documents a day. They are not trained to spot forgeries. They assume people are filing legitimate paperwork. Your brother took advantage of that. So what do? We file a complaint with the district attorney for forgery and fraud. These are serious crimes. But untangling the fake filings will take time and more legal expenses. I need to file motions to correct the county records, which means more court appearances, more fees. I was already $15,000 deep in legal bills. My savings were nearly gone. The stress was constant, crushing, suffocating. Do it, I said. File everything. I am not backing down. Caroline filed criminal complaints against Derek for forgery, fraud, and filing false documents. The district attorney took the case seriously. Derek was arrested on a Friday afternoon. He posted bail within 2 hours. I suspected my parents paid it with money they claimed they did not have, but I thought the arrest might finally scare them into stopping. Criminal charges are serious. Prison time is real. Surely they would back down now. I was wrong again. The morning after Derek's arrest, my landlord knocked on my apartment door. His name was Stuart Green, a retired accountant who owned the small apartment building where I had lived for 6 years. He was normally a friendly man, who left tenants alone as long as rent was paid on time. He did not look friendly now. Xavier, I need to talk to you about something serious. He handed me a notice, an eviction notice. 30 days to vacate. I stared at the paper, confused. Stuart, I have never been late on rent. Not once in 6 years. What is this about? I got a call from someone claiming to be your medical power of attorney. Said his name was Derek Thompson. Said he was your brother. He told me you had been hospitalized with a severe mental breakdown, and he needed access to your apartment to collect your belongings. He showed up here with paperwork. What paperwork? Medical documents. Hospital admission forms. A power of attorney document, giving him authority to act on your behalf. He said you were having a psychiatric crisis, and your family was taking care of you. I did not let him in, but I called the emergency contact number you listed on your lease application. Your parents. Your mother confirmed everything he said. She said you were having serious mental health issues and needed family intervention. My hands were shaking. Stuart, I have never been hospitalized. I have no mental health issues. Those documents were fake. My brother is trying to access my home to harass me further. My parents are lying. Stuart looked uncomfortable. Xavier, I have known you for 6 years. You have always been reliable and quiet. But these past few months, there have been police showing up at the building multiple times looking for you. Your family members showing up causing scenes in the parking lot. Other tenants are complaining. And now I have someone with official-looking medical documents saying you are mentally unstable. I cannot have this kind of situation in my building. I am sorry, but you need to find somewhere else to live. But I can prove all of this is harassment. I can show you the court documents, the police reports, everything. I believe you are dealing with a difficult situation. But that does not change the fact that your situation is creating problems for me and my other tenants. The eviction notice stands. You have 30 days. He walked away before I could argue further. I went back inside my apartment and sat on the floor. They had done it. They had gotten me evicted from my own home. The lies had worked. The fake documents had worked. I called Caroline immediately. She was furious. This is defamation, fraud, and identity theft. Your brother forged medical documents. Your parents gave false statements to your landlord. We can fight this, but Xavier, you need to provide documentation proving you are mentally sound. Your landlord is scared of liability. If he believes you are unstable, he has grounds for eviction under the lease terms regarding tenant behavior affecting other residents. So now I have to prove I am sane? Essentially, yes. I am sorry. This is absurd. But it is the situation we are in. I spent the next week getting letters from my primary care physician, from a psychiatrist I visited for a one-time evaluation, from my employer confirming my competence and reliability. The humiliation was crushing. I was being forced to prove I was not crazy because my own family was spreading lies about me. Stewart accepted the documentation but refused to rescind the eviction notice. I believe you are telling the truth, but I still need you to move. This situation is too volatile. I cannot risk it. I had 30 days to find a new apartment while dealing with an empty rental unit, mounting legal bills, criminal charges against my brother, a fraudulent lawsuit from my parents, and the complete destruction of my relationship with my family. I was fighting on every front. Legal, financial, professional, personal. And I was losing ground everywhere. The breaking point came when I checked the mail at my duplex and found nothing. Again. For the third week in a row, there was no mail in the box. No bills. No statements. Nothing. I had assumed the post office was slow, but Harold mentioned he was getting his mail regularly. I called the post office. They confirmed mail was being delivered to my address every day. Someone was stealing my mail. I installed a locking mailbox that afternoon and filed a complaint with the postal inspector. Mail theft is a federal crime. The inspector set up a camera across the street. 2 days later, the footage showed Derek using a key to open my old mailbox and taking the contents. He had made a copy of the mailbox key somehow, probably during one of his visits to the property before I changed the locks. The mail theft had been going on for at least 6 weeks. Bills I never received. Late payment notices I never saw. Important documents from my mortgage company and insurance provider that never reached me. Derek had been intercepting everything, creating problems I did not even know existed until they escalated. My mortgage company had sent 3 notices about missing insurance documentation. I never saw them because Derek stole them. Now, I was facing a penalty fee. My insurance provider had sent a cancellation notice for non-payment. I never saw it. Now I had a gap in coverage. The systematic sabotage was worse than I had imagined. Every aspect of my life was under attack. I sat in my car outside the duplex that November evening, watching the sun set over the property I had worked so hard to own, and realized I was in the deepest crisis of my life. My family had declared war on me, and they were winning. By early December, I had spent $19,000 in legal fees. My savings account was nearly empty. I had moved into a cheaper apartment on the other side of town, a tiny 1-bedroom in a building that smelled like cigarettes and old carpet. Harold was still in Unit B at the duplex, loyal and steady, but Unit A remained vacant. I had shown it to 3 potential tenants, and all 3 had backed out after I honestly disclosed the family drama. Nobody wanted to rent a place where the landlord's brother might show up causing problems. I was barely making my mortgage payment. I had cut every expense I could. No eating out, no entertainment, no unnecessary purchases. I was living like I had during the 4 years I saved for the down payment, except now I was going backward instead of forward. My parents escalated their harassment. They showed up at my new apartment twice, somehow finding my address. They showed up at my workplace once, causing a scene in the parking lot during lunch hour, yelling about how I had abandoned family in crisis. My boss gave me a final warning. One more incident, and I was fired. Caroline filed motions, responses, complaints, and counterclaims. The legal battle consumed everything. She was brilliant and aggressive, fighting on every front, but the system was slow. Justice took time. And time was something I was running out of. Then, on a Tuesday evening in mid-December, everything came to a head in the worst possible way. My father showed up at the duplex at 9:30 at night. I was there fixing a leaky faucet in Unit B, helping Harold with a minor maintenance issue. I heard the banging on the front door and looked out to see my father on the porch. He looked terrible. His face was red and puffy, his eyes bloodshot. He was drunk. I opened the door. "Dad, you need to leave. You are violating the restraining order I filed." "There is no restraining order yet," he slurred. "Judge has not approved it." I checked. "I can be here." He was right. The restraining order was pending, not finalized. "What do you want?" He pushed past me into the hallway. Harold appeared in his doorway, concerned. "Xavier. Is everything okay?" "It is fine, Harold. Please go back inside." Harold hesitated but went back into his unit. My father stumbled down the hallway, looking around at the building he thought should belong to Derek. "This place," he said, waving his arm vaguely. "This place was supposed to save us." "Save you from what?" He turned to face me, and for the first time, I saw genuine desperation in his eyes instead of anger. "We are losing the house, Xavier. The house where you grew up. Your mother and I took out a home equity loan 2 years ago. We gave most of it to Derek for his business ideas. The food truck that failed, the landscaping company that went under, the online store that never sold anything. We kept giving him money because he is our son, and we wanted to help. And now we cannot make the payments. The bank is going to foreclose in 60 days. I felt like I had been hit in the chest. You are losing your house? We needed Derek to move into your duplex, so we could move into his old apartment. His place is cheaper than our mortgage. We could afford it. We could save the house if we did not have to pay the mortgage. We were going to rent it out. But he is being evicted, and now he has nowhere to go. And we are stuck. The whole plan falls apart without your duplex." The truth crashed over me like a wave. This was never about helping Derek. This was about my parents saving themselves from their own terrible financial decisions. They had gambled on Derek's schemes and lost, and they wanted me to pay for it. "So you decided to destroy my life? To save yourselves? We are your parents. We raised you. We fed you and clothed you and put a roof over your head for 18 years. You owe us. I owe you respect and gratitude, not my entire financial future. You made bad choices. You enabled Derek for years. Those are your consequences to face, not mine." My father's face twisted with rage. He grabbed my shirt, pulling me close. I could smell the alcohol on his breath. "You selfish little bastard. You are going to let your parents become homeless? You are going to stand there and watch us lose everything?" I pulled away from him. "You did this to yourselves. I am sorry you are in this situation, but I cannot save you. I am barely saving myself after everything you have done to me." "Everything we have done? We are trying to keep this family together. By lying? By forging documents? By vandalizing property? By spreading rumors that I am mentally ill? By stealing my mail? That is not family. That is abuse." He stared at me, breathing hard. Then something broke in him. His shoulders slumped and he started crying. I had never seen my father cry. Not once in my entire life. "I do not know what else to do," he sobbed. "We are going to lose everything. Your mother is having panic attacks every day. Derek's kids are going to be on the street. I thought if we pushed hard enough, you would understand. You would help. You would do the right thing. The right thing is standing up for myself. The right thing is not enabling more bad decisions. The right thing is protecting what I worked for." He looked at me with such hatred and sadness mixed together that I almost felt sorry for him. "Almost. You are just like us," he said quietly. "You think you are different, but you are not. You are willing to let families suffer to protect yourself. That makes you exactly like us." He left without another word. I stood in the hallway, shaking. Harold came out of his unit. I heard most of that, Harold said gently. Are you all right? I do not know. For what it is worth, you are doing the right thing. Enabling people who make bad choices only makes them continue making bad choices. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let them face consequences. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. That night I could not sleep. I kept thinking about what my father said. Was I just like them? Was I choosing money over family? No. I was choosing self-preservation over being victimized. There was a difference. The next morning, I discovered the final betrayal. I went to check the mail at my duplex, using my new locking mailbox. Inside was a notice from my mortgage company. Due to the mail theft, I had missed a critical notice about property insurance verification. My insurance had lapsed. The mortgage company had placed forced insurance on the property at triple the normal rate. My monthly payment was increasing by $400 starting immediately. I called the insurance company. They explained that due to the missed payment caused by mail theft and the late fee and the gap in coverage, my original policy was canceled. I would need to reapply. The new rate would be higher due to the lapse in coverage history. Derek's mail theft had created a cascade of financial problems I was just now discovering. Penalties, fees, increased rates. The damage was in the thousands of dollars. I sat in my car and screamed. Just screamed until my throat hurt. This was it. The final assault. I was buried under debt. My rental income was cut in half. My expenses had exploded. My family was spreading lies about me. And I was one mistake away from losing my job. I had hit bottom. And then, my phone rang. It was Caroline. Xavier, I have news. The district attorney is offering Derek and Brittany a plea deal. They either take it, or this goes to trial and they face serious prison time. I think we can leverage this. What kind of plea deal? Full restitution for all damages. The vandalism, the lost rent, your legal fees, plus community service and probation, and a permanent no-contact order. They stay away from you forever. How much restitution? I calculated $38,000. The DA agrees it is reasonable given the scope of the harassment and damage. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of hope. Make it happen. The plea deal process took 3 weeks. Derek and Brittany fought it at first, but their attorney explained the alternative. If they went to trial for forgery, fraud, vandalism, identity theft, and mail theft, they were looking at potential prison sentences. The evidence against them was overwhelming. Security footage, postal inspector reports, forged documents, police reports, witness statements from Sarah and Harold. They took the deal. On January 15th, I sat in a courtroom and watched Derek and Brittany formally plead guilty. They agreed to pay $38,000 in restitution, to be paid over 5 years with interest. They agreed to 100 hours of community service each. They agreed to 3 years of probation. And most importantly, they agreed to a permanent no-contact order. They could not contact me, could not come near my property, could not approach my tenants or my workplace. Violation meant immediate jail time. The judge accepted the plea. It was over. My parents' fraudulent lawsuit was dismissed 2 weeks later. Caroline presented all my financial documentation, proving I had never received loans from them. Their attorney, Preston Hayes, withdrew from the case after learning about the fabricated evidence. The judge dismissed the case with prejudice, meaning they could never refile the same claim. The judge also issued a warning about filing frivolous lawsuits and wasting court resources. My parents were humiliated in court. My mother cried. My father stared straight ahead, expressionless. I felt nothing watching them. No satisfaction, no sadness, nothing. They were strangers now. Caroline filed for my legal fees to be included in the restitution. But Derek and Brittany had no money. The $38,000 payment plan was the best I would get. It would take years to collect, but at least it was something. The restraining order was finalized. My parents, Derek, and Brittany were all barred from contacting me or coming within 500 feet of me or my property. For the first time in 6 months, I could breathe. I listed Unit A for rent again in February. This time, I was completely honest in the listing. I explained there had been family conflict over the property, but it had been resolved legally with restraining orders in place. I installed additional security measures: better cameras, stronger locks, monitored alarm system. A young couple, James and Rachel Murphy, rented Unit A in March. They were both teachers, stable and responsible. They appreciated the honesty and the security measures. Harold stayed in Unit B. He had become more than a tenant during the crisis. He had become a friend. He checked on me regularly, made sure I was eating, offered quiet support when things were darkest. The rental income stabilized. With both units occupied, I could make my mortgage payment comfortably again. The increased insurance rate hurt, but I could manage it. I learned through extended family that my parents lost their house in March. They moved into a small apartment across town. My father got a part-time job at a hardware store. My mother stopped calling me. They never apologized. I made a conscious decision not to help them. It was the hardest decision I ever made, but it was necessary. If I helped, I would be enabling the same pattern. They would never learn. They would never change. And they would drag me down with them. Derek and Brittany moved in with her parents. Derek got a job at a warehouse, the first steady employment he had held in years. The restitution payments started arriving monthly. Small amounts, but they arrived. My savings account slowly recovered. I paid off Caroline's legal bills by June. I put extra money toward my mortgage principal. I focused on stability, on rebuilding what had been broken. In May, Harold invited me to his niece's birthday party. Her name was Emma, and she was an accountant with a sharp mind and a kind smile. We talked for hours at that party. She asked about my duplex, and I told her the whole story. She did not judge. She understood. We started dating slowly. Coffee dates, dinner, walks in the park. Emma helped me organize my finances after the legal chaos. She showed me how to create better budgets, how to plan for the future, how to protect myself from future problems. By September, Emma and I were serious. By November, we were talking about moving in together. She suggested I sell my cheap apartment lease and rent Unit A at the Duplex when James and Rachel moved out in December. That way I would live on my own property, save money, and keep closer watch on my investment. It made sense. In January, I moved into Unit A. Emma moved in with me in March. Having her there, in the property I had fought so hard to keep, felt like the final victory. My credit recovered. By the following summer, I qualified to buy a second investment property, a small single-family home that needed renovation. Emma and I fixed it up together on weekends. We rented it out in September. I built a real estate portfolio. I built a life with someone who respected boundaries and understood the value of hard work. I built a future. I never heard from my parents again. They never apologized. They never acknowledged what they had done. I made peace with that. Some people never change. And that is not my responsibility. Derek and Brittany continued making restitution payments. I never saw them. The system worked. Looking back on everything that happened, I learned something profound about family and boundaries. Family is not determined by blood or obligation. Real family respects you. Real family celebrates your success instead of trying to steal it. Real family asks instead of demands. Real family supports instead of sabotages. The guilt my parents tried to weaponize against me was never mine to carry. Their financial problems were the result of their own choices. Their decision to enable Derek's failures for years created their crisis. I was not responsible for fixing their mistakes. Standing firm in my boundaries, even when pressured and attacked from every angle, was the only path to self-respect and genuine peace. Every time I wanted to give in, every time I felt guilty, every time I questioned whether I was being selfish, I had to remind myself that protecting my future was not selfish. It was necessary. By refusing to set myself on fire to keep others warm, I built a life of stability, success, and authentic relationships. The duplex that was supposed to be my burden became my foundation for everything good that followed. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable destructive behavior, even when it is painful. Especially when it is painful. Real change only happens when people face the consequences of their actions. I think about my parents occasionally. I wonder if they are okay. I hope they are. But I do not reach out. The door is closed, and it needs to stay closed. I protected myself, and in doing so, I protected my future with Emma, my investments, my peace of mind. 3 years after the crisis ended, I stand on the porch of my duplex on a spring evening. Emma is beside me, talking about our plans to buy a third property. Harold waves from his window in Unit B. My tenants are happy and stable. My life is quiet and good. The sun sets over the property I fought so hard to protect, and for the first time in years, I feel genuinely at peace. I chose myself, and in doing so, I found everything I needed. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who felt entitled to your resources or success? How did you handle the guilt and pressure? What would you have done in my situation? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about standing up for yourself and building the life you deserve. Share this with anyone who might be dealing with similar family pressures. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there find the courage to protect their own future. Take care of yourselves, set those boundaries, and remember that choosing yourself is not selfish. It is survival,